All right. We'll open the Clarksburg Select Board meeting February 29th at 11 a.m. I'll ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up on the agenda is to meet with the Agricultural Commission regarding the right to farm in Clarksburg. So I guess.
I printed it up for you. I didn't know if you had copies or not.
Yes.
Yep. Got mine ready.
You do have copies?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any copies? Would anyone like a copy?
Yeah. Got it printed before we ran out of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. All right, so we've been working on this since we started a few months ago. And this is our kind of a rough draft, and we wanted to present it to you to get some feedback on it, to see what your thoughts were. A lot of it is kind of boilerplate from the state's recommendations. So I guess that's it. I guess we're just looking for some feedback on the terminology, I guess, that we're using, and making sure that it's written in a way that you guys approve of.
Martha, right off, kind of right in the beginning, it says, this bylaw shall apply to all jurisdictional areas. What are the jurisdictional areas?
It would be the town of Clarksburg.
Okay,
so
so
it'd be like
the town as a whole.
the town as a whole.
Okay, so is there any parameters or restrictions on this as far as, do you need X amount of land to be considered a farm?
So to be considered a farm under Chapter 61A, which is like the agricultural title, you need 5 acres of land.
Those were my questions also.
So what if you have under 5 acres of land? Can you raise animals? Can you?
Sure, I mean, I think you can do like kind of like a homestead type farm. It's just not under the jurisdiction of the state's agricultural taxation.
Okay.
So exactly how does the process, so I have 5+ acres of land and I want to farm, now does that like give a tax break?
It does. It does give I don't know the percentages, but it does give you a tax break on your acreage.
Okay.
If you apply.
Yes, you have to apply through the state and get approved. So you have to, there's a form you fill out yearly, comes out in October. I believe they changed it to December this year. It asks for basic information, home address, and then it asks for your tax information, your Schedule F, everything that would qualify you to be a farm. You also have to make $500 to qualify as a farm, like through farm sales.
Okay.
And then for every 1 acre you have, past the 5 acres, you have to make 50 cents off of that acre, depending on how much acreage you claim.
So this is commercial farming.
It doesn't have to be commercial farming. It can really be any kind of agriculture.
Any type of protections for neighbors, as far as, I had an instance 4 or 5 years ago. A woman called me up, and I was the chair of the select board then. She had her neighbor directly across the street from her had purchased chickens and had a rooster or two. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but she asked me to go down to her house because the rooster's just constantly making noise, constantly. And so while we sat there on the front porch, and he never stopped.
Yeah.
And so after I got out of work, I went back up to her place, and he was still going. So it was driving her crazy, and she wanted to know what the recourse was. And fortunately, the people moved the very next year, so that issue was kind of taken care of. But what type of protection is there for something like that? If somebody does that?
Sure. So in this bylaw, it talks about kind of being respectful of your neighbors and your space, and appreciating the land that you have, as well as following
Excuse me.
regulations for noise, smells, odors, dust, anything like that. So that's something I'd have to look into.
Oh, so there are state regulations?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I just don't know exactly what they are, but there are state regulations for agricultural noise and.
I mean, the first thing that would kick in is if they could qualify as a farm. And I don't think it takes 5 acres. It takes 5 acres to be Rule 61A for taxation purposes. But I think that the $500 limit is probably the defining thing, for being considered a farm. So, for example, the person with the chickens, were they earning $500 or more from their chickens?
So we also had an instance a few years back, I know Carl remembers this, a gentleman on Water Street had a horse
On half an acre.
on half an acre.
2 horses and right next to a wetland and a shallow well.
Yeah.
And they were living in a garage.
Yeah.
Seriously. I kid you not.
And that's what I mean by protections for, for,
For the animal.
yeah, of course, yeah.
So in this, it will refer to any issues, I guess, similar to that, where you as a board would make kind of ruling decisions. We don't have much power. We just kind of, like our animals and our land.
But it's in here?
It's in here.
I
Yep, so it would
missed that, I'm sorry.
show- No, that's okay. So, Section 5, Resolution of Disputes. It says,
Oh, I see what, yeah, I did read that where it says it comes to the select
it would come
board.
to the select board, then the zoning enforcement, board of health, really any board that would deal with issues like that, because I'm sure the board of health was involved with those horses
Yes,
and all, all of
Absolutely,
that.
yes, they were.
We would obviously give you as much advice as we could on a situation.
So the agricultural commission would oversee anyone looking for, I guess, to, do the right to farm. You guys would oversee all, anyone that's doing that in the town?
So it's more of like a,
Board of Health would do that, wouldn't they?
I-
It wouldn't be so much you as the
I don't think it's
commissioners.
like, you don't get a, like, I don't apply to be a right to farm. It's something that the town just has.
Okay.
So our whole community would be a right to farm community. So it's saying like, you would be respectful of me driving my tractor down the road and understand that I'm trying to, run a farm with my tractor and not try to run me off the road. So it's just asking for the community as a whole to be, involved and respectful of agricultural practices in town.
So this isn't gonna be where I live next to Dan, we get into a huge fight, and I say, you know what, you're gonna have a pig farm next to you now.
Yeah,
That
good.
type of thing.
I mean, if you look at section 4, and so we would have to have a sign that you're about to enter Clarksburg, which is a right to farm community. And under a right to farm community, you are going to expect that these activities will cause noise, dust, and odors.
Right, but again, you'd have to have X amount. If I have like an acre and a half, I couldn't really put a pig farm on my land. Or can I, because it's right to,
Yeah, you can.
I think that's more of zoning regulations as opposed to this, like
Okay.
saying like agriculturally, like what the town allows on a quarter acre, less than a quarter acre, a half acre, 1 acre. That's not really what this is trying to do. This is just saying, these are the, how do I want to say this? These are,
Well, it's kind of these instances, like, say that someone running a farm decides that because of weather or things that need to be accomplished, they're running equipment on Sunday at 9 a.m. Maybe the neighbor doesn't prefer that, but it would probably be considered not in line for complaining about it if it's a right to farm community. Now, most people probably try to respect their neighbors and might say, okay, I can wait till 11, or, something like that.
I mean, I understand that, but I'm more worried about protection for neighbors of, you know, if there's a dispute and it's like, okay, now you have to deal with this. And I've only got like a half an acre, I'm trying to fill it full of animals to annoy somebody.
Well, if it's, it's
Well, we've got that
it's an-
issue on Jordan Avenue.
Mhm.
And they're on like an eighth of an acre, and they've got goats and horses, not horses, chickens, and they're, yeah. Has any contemplation been given to isolating it by zoning district? So like in a residential zone, it's not, but in an agricultural, upland conservation, and commercial industrial, would that be something that?
Well, I think that the zoning has to be in place. In other words, if it wasn't zoned agricultural or AR, you can't. I mean, this wouldn't protect you.
Right.
Right, I think it'd be more looking into like the the agricultural zones that are established in town and saying what can and cannot happen. When it come down to if you were neighbors and you two got into a dispute and you lived on a half an acre, can you have pigs there? I don't know, can you in this town? I'm not sure.
Well, I see, I, like,
You know what I mean?
What?
Like, I'm not-
Yeah, in this town, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's why I got shot down at town meeting a few years ago, because we were trying to restrict. You had this problem where people were having animals on half an acre land, but you had people that had 2 acres that had animals and it overrode, because the gentleman with 2 acres says that's what's going on here, you know what I mean?
Right.
Where he was perfectly fine, but it wasn't working out in this neighborhood. That's why I got shut down a couple years ago.
Excuse me.
and we were a right to farm at that point. So what I'm saying is if we're a right to farm, does that open up,
The whole town.
right, the whole town as being, I just don't, my worry is, I love the idea and I understand the importance, but I'm worried about protection for neighbors.
Sure,
You know, and that's,
absolutely.
and so I guess that doesn't really pertain here, does it? Or do we need to make need to,
That might be a good question for council.
Isn't there a bylaw that restricts how many animals can be on a piece of property?
I think that we had
But there
I
was.
thought it was shot down.
an animal husbandry, and then they edited it after it was passed.
Yeah.
Years ago, I thought back in the late 80s, and I have yet to find it again, and maybe my memory is failing, that would limit the number of swine to 3 without a special permit. But I have yet to find it going back through the approved bylaws.
And I worry about, like when the solar thing hit, everybody and their brother was putting up solar panels all over. We didn't have any type of, rhyme or reason as to where they were going.
Right.
So, everybody thought they could make money from the state. We'll put up 2 acres of solar panels and we'll get X amount of dollars per month. So we ended up with an overlay.
Yes, an overlay district.
Right. So I just worry that there's no parameters, there's no restrictions, there's no boundaries on something like this. Maybe I just don't understand it. So the point is just to make the town of Clarksburg a right to farm community.
Correct.
And that's pretty much all you're,
That's all it's doing. So basically, when you look at Berkshire County, North Adams and Clarksburg are the only communities that are not right to farm. So
I didn't know that.
everyone else is. I don't know why we're not. I don't know if it's just a local community issue. North Adams doesn't have a lot of agricultural land to be. I'm speaking Northern Berkshire. I'm sorry. Pittsfield also. I'm not sure if they're right to farm or not. I haven't looked into that. But I know North Adams is not. I think it's an important thing for the town. I think it's going to help conserve, protect, kind of just the integrity of farming in the community. I farm. I have roosters. I don't want to live next to someone who has a rooster that's crowing all the time. I mean, I think it's a respectful thing, but a lot of people aren't respectful. So.
Okay.
Where is cannabis excluded kind of from this type? I don't see it listed here, but I'm just wondering
I
where
think
that
it's
kind of.
listed under like horticulture, agriculture, cultivation.
Mhm.
We don't have a specific line item for it. doesn't mean we can't add one. I mean,
Yeah.
this is obviously a very working, draft document. But it's something we could definitely add. I know we do have that, I don't know if we have a growing facility yet in our community, but I know it's something that's kind of on the table.
Yeah. I just didn't know how that kind of falls or plays into.
I think it's under agriculture
Mhm.
or horticulture. I'm not sure which one it would be under. I guess it depends on how it's being grown.
So that is heavily regulated, and
Yeah.
it can only be in the I or IS zoning, because we do have a cannabis, basically an overlay. You can only do cannabis type, either sales or growing. It was originally supposed to be IS, which is industrial/service zone, which is separate from the I1 industrial zone, but at town meeting, the voters edited it to include both of our industrial zones. So you can grow and or sell marijuana in industrial zones, both of those zones, by right, with the approval from obviously, the Cannabis Commission.
I was just curious. Now, just going back to kind of when we first talked about like the 5 acres, and then you mentioned, that's only for 61A. So is the reduction in taxes only for a 61A, or is that for, say someone has like 1 acre and they said, go to the right to farm and they say put up a couple rows of Christmas trees, to make, sell a farm. Do they get a tax reduction because they're saying they're a farm?
They do not. They
Okay.
have to be approved by the state for 60.
Okay, so it's only a 61A thing to get a tax. Okay. That was just my fault. I just didn't want someone, like someone that has, a $500,000 house, say, I'll just grow some pumpkins out here and, and else I get save a third in taxes. So, okay.
So I think maybe there's some more research that needs to be done on our end, looking at some, different zoning laws that might be already in place and seeing how they apply to this or not apply.
Maybe a working group over the next several months before town meeting might be in order to put together some type of a plan and or compromise if that's what is necessary. I know that we did attempt to do the right to farm, and it was not passed at annual town meeting. And at that time, and that had, I think I was in my first or second term on the select board. So that was probably in the early to mid 2000s. And it was a fear of the odors.
Mhm.
I remember that very clearly. I could even remember who brought it up, but I won't do that, let sleeping dogs fly type of thing. But we could work together and work through whatever items that might be of concern so that it can be palatable for everybody, if that's what the board wants.
Yeah, I think that's, because like I said, I'm certainly for this. There's just no boundaries, it seems, no parameters. So if we could tighten it up a little bit, I'm sure we can make it work.
Okay. Martha, can I get a hold of you after the meeting and we can propose? Would you be willing to serve on that committee there, mister?
As long as I'm here.
Okay. All right, I'll be in touch with you on that.
Okay.
We can move forward like that.
That would work, yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Great. Well,
Excellent.
thank you for giving us such good feedback. We weren't really sure, how it was moving or how it would be received. So I think it's good. I think we're kind of in a good spot to have some
Yeah,
good
I believe
conversations
so,
about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
All
right, thank you.
very
Thanks very much for the information. Appreciate it.
And thank you for the work you did. So you guys want to have your own meeting now, so you're going to adjourn your meeting and then reconvene. And just trying to see where that you could meet. I mean, if you want to meet in the disaster that is my office, feel free, the door's open.
Anywhere's
So we
fine.
won't just
Yeah,
go
the
there.
break room.
Oh, yeah, the break room's got a table, perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
folks.
much. Do I need to read off, end the meeting part?
No, because our meeting is continued.
Okay.
Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt that
Okay.
we're exiting the joint meeting and we're going to enter into regular select board.
At this time, I'll end the meeting with the Agricultural Commission, resume our select board meeting. Next up is meet with the Historical Commission regarding CPA.
Okay. Susan Brandon, East Road, and on the Historical Commission with our chairs here, Jean Lothrop. We came before you at your last meeting, and we wanted to come back and see if you had any specific questions for us, or, I mean, I can just go over it for those, you know, who may be tuning in, or, you know, didn't hear the first time. I made up this Community Preservation Act, what's in it for Clarksburg, little bullet
Thank you.
thing.
That's excellent, thank you.
I'm just gonna kind of read off the bat. Clarksburg can undertake projects that sustain our quality of life, maintaining the uniqueness of Clarksburg through preservation of our historic and natural resources, open space and farmland. Clarksburg can raise over an estimated $35,000 each year. That's given the estimated average property value. And the state could match that for up to 70, so we would have 70,000 in our annual budget. The CPA fund is a dedicated fund for 3 categories of projects, cannot be used for other purposes. They're historic preservation, open space, recreation, and community housing. CPA can be used to secure outside funding such as state and federal grants. CPA can provide some relief to the town's budget by supporting projects for historic municipal buildings, parks, cemeteries. CPA makes Clarksburg competitive for grants by creating a dedicated source for matching funds required by grant programs. And CPA requires spending in all the 3 categories, creating a balance of open space, historic preservation, affordable housing with priorities determined by a local committee of Clarksburg citizens. We can go more into specifics if you had any questions on the specifics, but I just wrote some projects that could be funded: the new roof for our school, renovation, restoration of the town hall, preservation and digitization of historic town documents, floodplain restoration, riverbank stabilization, multi-use pathways connecting the town field, school, library, community senior center. We could have outdoor classrooms, ball fields, pickleball courts, and playgrounds. So these are some ideas of what, and there's other things. You know, the committee would have town people come before them and suggest, you know, projects, and they would bring those ideas to town meeting for the town to decide how to spend our money.
So I do have one question. So I see how it requires spending in all 3 categories. What would be an example of affordable housing project?
Yeah, that's something that I, you know, was curious about. Someone on the committee needs to be representing housing, and I need to find out who that person might be. I know years ago, there was a talk about senior housing, like off of Carson Avenue, and I don't know who spearheaded that, or, but I would like more information about that, you know. Do we still have this building here, the historic mill building that is being unused? Is that something that could be?
I'm not aware of any space that's not used in there. I think that
Okay.
there's one that's for sale.
At 161, that's under the trust.
But I think that you have Baker, Cascade. I know that there's another one, but I can't, I'm not sure if it's period lighting. I think that is not there, but I don't know that.
Yeah,
Something Dumont's Bones just sold recently in the last 3 months.
you have to save at least 5% of your yearly fund on each of those. You can spend, the other, 75% on any one of those, but if you're not gonna spend anything on a certain part, you need to at least save 5% of your money for something that could come in the future. And that's something we could explore. There are other options in helping first-time home buyers, and there's different programs that this money might be able to be used for.
I saw where Habitat for Humanity was one that could be helped through these.
Okay, that's good.
That might
So-
be the avenue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious how you
How you would do it.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
It has to be set aside and that portion has to continue growing until such time as you have a project.
yeah,
So, there's supposedly, I think 4 or 5% for administrative, because you have to have a public meeting once a year, and it has to be advertised twice. And then, what I was looking at yesterday was 10% for each of those others. And,
now do you
So they
have
have
to
to be
split it
separate
up all
accounts.
at once, or can you like do one?
Each year
and
it has to
then
be split up.
focus on the next year? and-
yeah, you can just, as long as you save some
Okay,
for the things you're not going to address, certain projects.
They have
You
to
can
be-
spend the rest on one project.
so we did have an effort for elderly housing in one location. The town had a 10-acre parcel given to the town for the benefit of the fire department, although we didn't know it at the time. And the town has since deeded it to the fire department, so that was on the Carson Avenue, right at the end.
Oh, okay, that's that.
So between where Ernie Dix's house is and the end of Carson Avenue, it was that strip right there. So then it moved on to near the senior center, which is now the community center. And I believe that Elder Services of the Berkshires did get involved, and it never came to fruition financing wise. And there seemed to be some genuine interest in that. And I think that the number they were looking at was 11 units for elderly housing. And of course, I am aware that they're having trouble filling some of the elderly slots in area elderly housing complexes. It doesn't mean that can't certainly be
Right, I
done.
think 30% of our population,
Yeah, well,
60 and over, so.
yeah. But, certainly, there are some properties that we're probably gonna end up taking, which might be a candidate for like a housing for Habitat for Humanity. And, maybe Jimmy Carter will recover and he can come and help us.
Yeah.
We did also want to highlight the exemptions that we would want to put in place. Particularly, property owned and occupied by a person who would qualify for low income, or seniors with low to medium income, and also the first $100,000 of residential and commercial, since we don't split our tax rate, it's the same for both commercial. So it'd be $100,000 off the top. And then people who are low income or low to moderate income senior could apply annually to be totally exempt from the surcharge. And Jean did a little
It does
research,
come on
and
the tax
it will
bill.
be put on your tax
So that
bill.
there is,
That's what Williamstown does anyways.
right.
But I think the
And
other
I
communities.
did talk to Kelly yesterday too. So it comes on the tax bill so that if people don't pay the taxes, then there is something that you could do.
Okay.
Also, someone from the Community Preservation Committee or Coalition will come and talk with us. I don't know how soon we can get them. But we're working on finding people to be part of a committee, a startup committee to get this going. So,
Across the board, especially those who might want to potentially be on the committee, who can just,
yeah, I'm
look at
hoping
some
that we can
projects.
get them here soon so that we could have a vote at town meeting in May.
So how old do buildings have to be considered historic?
50 years? I mean, our school's 70, well, the oldest part is 70 years old. This building is 85 years old. So there's plenty of,
And we only have a couple more buildings anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll find out for sure, well, by next meeting,
Mhm.
because I'll be talking to someone
yeah,
on the commission. But other towns, what they had the demolition delay bylaws were considering 50 years as
The
old.
baseline.
mhm.
So we'll find out for sure and have some good answers for you.
Right.
Okay.
And when we were doing the inventory of historic resources for the town,
There are a lot
We
of
started
homes that
that-
are 1800 years old, a
those
lot
are,
of
yeah,
buildings.
private homes, but I think generally was 50 years and back.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are we thinking that like maybe like early May to have like an informational session possibly for our
Well,
residents?
We would
to-
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to get the word out. We don't want people to be surprised by it.
Yeah.
That's why we'd like to get like a coalition of people who are interested and would support it and talk to their neighbors and maybe something at the senior center. Just
End of April,
some
beginning of
fears,
May.
you know, of
Yeah.
a tax increase or something. But we know we need funds to improve our town, funds that we don't have.
Yeah.
And we get outside money if we just give a little bit. And we can work together and hopefully get some of these projects done just to improve our quality of life here.
And there's no shortage of need.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it did an informational night where people could come and, find out more information about it so they can kind of,
Right.
not surprised by it at the town meeting.
Right.
Could you tie in other things if there's anything else on the warrant and the same type of,
Well,
say like the right to farm, like they
Yeah.
could be there to, at the same one so people kind of have an idea of what.
I mean, actually, we could put together a whole production if you want, and I would recommend it would take place at the elementary school, similar to how a town meeting is arranged, and we could hit a couple of things there, the Community Preservation Act, the right to farm community, and any other item now. We're also going through the MVP process. I don't know if they have any additional items that they're gonna need to just chat. I know that we have multiple digital equity and cybersecurity and all kinds of other things to make sure that people have reasonable access to the internet type of a thing. And I know that outreach has been a challenge for us, both financially and otherwise. So we could set up a meeting. I would recommend, because it's going to be a little bit different this year, because historically, we had, the election on the Tuesday before town meeting, and it's not going to be that way. We passed that last year at town meeting due to early voting. Voting is going to be on the 14th of May this year, and town meeting is going to be 2 weeks later on the 29th. So you're going to have that period between the two. So it probably would be prudent to put together some type of a community engagement late April or very, very early in May, to give the folks in town time to digest it. And if they have further questions, to by all means follow up with it.
And at the town meeting, it's a vote whether we put this on this ballot question. So it will go before the whole town in a state election, which I believe is a September primary. Our ballot question could be proposed then, and so we have time to do that. But the biggest thing is to just kind of get awareness out and let people be comfortable with it and maybe see what we can do. And, we don't have any resources in Clarksburg, and we're just trying to do what we can with what we have.
No, you guys are doing a great job with the information and,
So
Any
thank you for
ideas?
your time, I appreciate that, and,
Yeah, and the commission has a PowerPoint program that I think that they will let us use.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
have all kinds of information for us
Yeah.
to,
Would they be willing to do a presentation at one of the informational meetings?
I will find out.
That would be swimmingly great.
Yes, yes. So, and I think they can also help us figure out how much money we would gain through the surcharge.
Mhm.
Because I'm just using the estimate of an average.
Well, any money is more money than we
Exactly.
have, because we have a whole lot of no money.
So, thank you for your time and,
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you very, very much, ladies. Thank you for all you do.
Our pleasure.
Next up is the review and or approve meeting minutes. So I believe she, in this pile here. We have quite a few of them. Have you had a chance to take a look at these, Jeff?
I have, yeah. I think some of them I wasn't here for, and so I can't really vote on those, but.
So Rochelle, quick question for you. I believe it looks like kind of out of sequence here, December 11th. Not sure. That one's still, if you're still working on that one, but I don't see that one here in the list. But we can approve that one another time, but I just want to make sure that one didn't fall off the radar. Maybe we can save that one for another meeting, just so we have time to read it over. So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 11th, 2023, October 25th, 2023, November 8th, 2023, November 22nd, 2023, December 27th, 2003, and January 11th, 2024.
Okay, I will second that motion as written, and also as an attendee for those that I wasn't here for.
Yeah, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They look complete, those minutes, but I don't know if I emailed them for review, so I'll check back after.
Okay.
And I can just add it to the next set.
Like I said, there's one other one here. I didn't see that was here. So we have August 26th. Actually, that one needs a little adjustment on something, so we'll go back. We'll save that one for another time. Those are for you. All right. Next up on the agenda is meet with Jennifer
Sober.
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 Sober. I'm
I
sorry.
am sober. Right now.
DCR about the Commonwealth acquiring more land in Clarksburg. All right, Jennifer, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for making some time. And excuse me, gentlemen, at the extreme my right. Are you Carl?
I am.
Hi.
Hello.
We are, I guess, phone acquaintances at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have the map.
So don't take anything personally.
There's the map. Yeah, there you go. And you guys can share that if you want. You want a copy of it?
Oh, please.
Yeah. So, and are you town clerk?
I'm the assistant.
Assistant, okay. So I work for DCR. We're the state agency that owns the Clarksburg State Forest. And you can see on the map that red rectangular box is what we would describe as an in-holding. So I think it was back in the 50s, the last gentleman that owned that, I think Fitzgerald, he bequeathed it to the Catholic diocese, so that's now in Springfield Catholic Diocese. So Father Darius, I think he's in North Adams, he reached out to our agency 2 years ago and said, we never do anything with this property. Are you folks interested? And I said, sure we are. DCR typically likes to acquire land that is like this one, sort of a donut hole. We like to buy, remember Dunkin's donut holes?
Yep.
You know, like you just eat 2 or 3 and figure like, you're not really eating a whole donut. We like to eat these donut holes.
Our maps don't show it here though, Jennifer. It shows it adjacent to property of Ben Svensson.
No,
Well, that's what
not the same,
yeah.
if you go on, maybe that's something you and I can look at
Mhm.
mapping after the meeting. If you go on Mass GIS, it'll show up surrounded. We've had title exam done, both Catholic, Springfield Catholic Diocese has had their title. We've had a title exam done, and it shows as actually within. There's another kind of, oh, it doesn't show up on this. There's another property right here that is, we own most of it, but there's a separate interest, and that's further east of this one. But let's
We
take
can
a
iron
look at
that out
that together
after.
to see what that's like. So in any event, when DCR buys land in any community, we are required by state law to notice the community. So that's what this is. Doesn't require any formal action on the part of the board, except if you would kindly just read this notice that came out in the email, the letter from the project attorney. And this, it says, well, that the Commonwealth, acting through DCR, has under consideration for acquisition the land in the town of Clarksburg. It's shown at 35.46 acres in that perhaps erroneous map. The property is currently undeveloped forested land. Proposed use will be protected open space. We'll manage it in accordance with the way the rest of the land is managed. That's why we like to acquire it, because if someone private were to buy that, now there's no town road, there's no public road, so there's no developable frontage. So a house can't go up on there, but the person could perhaps bring camping equipment and whatnot, and just basically manage the property in a way that is not in concert with the way the rest of the forest is managed. So we just required to disclose that we're in consultation with the Springfield Diocese, and basically want to let you know. So that's why I came here. Does anybody have questions?
Oh, I have a lot of them.
All right, go.
So, now I've been with this town, started in 2002 on the finance
I'm
committee.
gonna sit over here so I can see.
And during that time, Jennifer, in 2002, our pilot payment in lieu of taxes regarding state property was $28,000. So we're looking at 22 years later, we're at 30,000, and last year it was 26,000. During those interim periods of time, it went as low as $6,000.
I'm sorry, it went as low what?
$6,000. And we have great concern of the Commonwealth acquiring any more land in this town. We are the smallest land mass in all of Berkshire County as a town. And the state owns 50% of the town plus. We struggle terribly financially. Now, I did a term on the finance committee, 5 terms on the select board, and I'm in my 8th year as a town administrator, so I'm well versed in this whole issue. It used to be that the forest management, where they did selective cuts, we would get paid stumpage. That no longer happens. We see that the state has not been managing the forests. They have let trees and brush go willy-nilly, blowdowns, fire hazards. Then people tell me I'm crazy, and we have 2 forest fires up there within the last 10 years. One of them was 400 acres. And then DCR wouldn't let the firefighters access that property with firefighting quads. So it seems to me that this pilot issue is horrendously affecting our ability to operate the community. I'll tell you right now, we are very, very poor. Our tax base, it's not growing. It can't because the state owns most of our land. We have public water. We have public sewer. We have an elementary school. We have a police and fire department. All of those things require resources, of which every time more property gets taken over by the state, it decreases our ability to respond to the necessities of capital improvements for our water, capital improvements to our sewer system, let alone operating a municipality. And I have made no bones about this. Everybody in Boston knows where the town has been. And I would respectfully say that the state needs to step up. Now, we did, when I was the chairman of the board, our then town administrator did a study. And we're losing about $250,000 a year in property taxes if that had been on the private tax versus owned by the Commonwealth. Additionally, grants and things of that nature that say that they would like to expand open space in the town fail to take into account that 50% of the town is forest. It's not managed well. The remuneration that we're receiving in lieu of taxes is totally inadequate, and it has real and lasting effects. And COVID has just magnified those effects tremendously. We are in the marketplace competing for very few and limited experienced municipal personnel. It's very difficult, especially given our location, to get contractors to bid on projects that we have here in the town. And when they do, they're generally coming from metropolitan areas that are 1.5 to 3 hours away, and so we pay more for the same services that they get elsewhere. And so let the record reflect that this is not in the best interests of the community, and that has potential, and yet it will never be realized. The Appalachian Trail does nothing for this town. The Appalachian Trail, as far as generating any revenue for the community, or outside of the recreational opportunities of the hikers that go through and set fires, what benefit is it to the town? Now, we've got, 3,000 plus acres up there on the hill that you own. The hikers come through, start fires, and leave them unattended, and we get stuck with the results. I would respectfully request that you revisit the policies and procedures of how the forest is managed. So I have done a lot of beaver dam fishing in national forest in Vermont, and they have some of the ugliest, most diseased trees I've ever seen in my life because it has not been managed. And you have blowdowns, and rotting trees actually emit methane, which is a worse greenhouse gas than carbon. Additionally, these trees that sit on that land do clean a lot of the carbon for the other side of the state. And yet, if you had to do that mechanically, it would be incredibly expensive, a whole lot more expensive than the $30,000 that you give us in pilot payments. And I know you are not solely responsible, obviously, for the policies, but it needs to be said that the pilot program is broken. And we do understand the need for adapting to climate change, which does take money, and it takes time, and it takes cooperation. So it's obvious that this is going to go through regardless of whether we support it or not. You know, I see the handwriting on the wall. If it didn't go through, there were numerous people who approached me for private sale purchase of that parcel, which would have put it on the tax rolls. There is a concept of right-of-way of necessity, which is a legal concept. And that is our sad story. And hopefully this will be the end of any further acquisitions here in town. I think that we need help, we need cooperation, and we need recognition of the fact that if we are going to change the trajectory of the climate, it cannot be borne solely by the folks who can least afford it on the western side of the state. And outside of that, I don't really have a lot to add to that. It is what it is.
And I wasn't being rude on my phone. I was pulling up the assessor's map on that, and it is completely surrounded by state land. You can see that's a parcel that the diocese owns. That's state
Is that
land.
our assessor maps?
Yes. The state owns that. The state owns that.
So basically, Ms. Silver, this is just a formality.
It is.
And so, yeah, I mean, I've been listening to this for a lot of years, and I know it's a pet peeve of Carl's, but it makes a lot of
It
sense.
does. Have you been following that? It's been underway for at least a decade at the State House to improve the pilot program.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it has been,
When's it going to happen? 'Cause
I know, right?
it hasn't. And here's the other thing, is under Governor Romney, it used to be, before he was governor, that pilot payments only went for the raw land and not buildings. And then in his infinite wisdom, decided to include buildings. And that did nothing but suck all the money out of Western Mass toward the east. So now libraries and hospitals and prisons and office buildings now receive money that they normally wouldn't have. And it never got additional money. So the state is funding the pilot, last year anyways, at $28 million. It needs a tenfold increase, tenfold. It needs to be $250 million. I mean, I recycle, I'm on the solid waste district, I believe in saving the planet, and I don't use pesticides. We're a pollinator-friendly community. We're not anti-environment by any stretch of the imagination, but there has to be some level of fairness, and we don't feel that.
No, it has not been reached.
and that's exactly, it's not fair. It really just isn't fair. It's so tilted in the way of the state, you know. I mean, we had, like Carl said, we have people that really wanted to purchase this land. It wasn't even an option. You know, so, I mean, that just sours everything, you know. Again, it's a, you know, it's, you're here for a formality, so.
I am.
Yeah.
Well, any more questions?
That's what we
I
need.
wish I did.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and
Yes.
giving your information.
And we'll have the town clerk certify this.
Okay, email it back.
And we'll send it back to you.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe drive back.
Thank you.
All right, next up, discuss debt exclusion for purchase of DPW truck and assessing software and roof.
Okay, so we're in the budget season and obviously we have some requests that are gonna be really, 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 really hard to get into the budget. But we do need a highway truck, and that's $142,000. We need to upgrade our assessing software, and that's gonna be about $5,000. And then, we did get, well, it's in the process of getting the school roof into the state's capital plan, but that's not a guarantee that the money is going to be received. And in my in the emails that have been coming from John Franzoni on an MSBA repair project for the roof, is it would appear that if we were able to come up with $167,000 and understand the roof is going to be $500,000, of which we don't have, that the state MSBA would pay for the rest. And obviously, you know, we'd want to dot our I's and cross our T's type of a thing. So then this leads me to query the board. What do we do? So between the three items, we're looking at about $315,000, which is, it's a lot when it's in our budget, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge hurdle. And understanding that the $1 million debt exclusion did expire this past year. So if we were hypothetically to seek a debt exclusion for 3 or 5 years, whatever works, to accomplish these three goals off budget, that's kind of the road that I would like to pursue. Obviously, it would be subject to town meeting vote and a ballot, which is, it is what it is. Thoughts, questions, comments?
You know, Carl, I really don't know what to say. I understand, I grasp everything here. When it comes to it, I can't stand up and support it. And I think you know why. And for those that don't, we had this debt exclusion 5 years ago, and it was a tough thing to pass. And a gentleman stood up at town meeting and said, so what's going to happen? We're going to take care of this $1 million, half for the school at the time, half for the town, and every 5 years we're going to have that. And I got up and said, we really need your support. I won't back another one of these. In other words, I won't keep it going. So I put myself in a bind because I know I need to support this, but I also gave every resident in the town of Clarksburg my word that I wouldn't. And now I can't go up there. I can't go up and support this. But I would, you know, I mean, I'm hoping that with Bob and Dan, you know, there's your support from the select board. If, I don't know Bob's I don't know Bob's thoughts and certainly don't know Dan's thoughts, but, you know, you might have to do this one without me type thing.
My first choice is to try to find another solution to pay for these items and not do the debt exclusion. You know, if that's an option, if, you know, if there's areas you pull the funds from it, like, you know, the assessing software, I'm sure, you know, that wouldn't be the issue. It's more or less the
truck and the roof.
you know, truck and the roof.
Yeah.
But
Well, you don't get grants for trucks, and I did my research on One Stop for Growth, MassWorks, and they're not going to fund a roof. So that really trims down the ability to find the funds to do it. And the roof is leaking, you know, just so that we're clear on this. So I guess that if that were to be the case, then we'll just have to not do it and find money for the assessing software. We are so tight budget-wise. There's no way that I could cut $300,000 out of the budget. It's just, that can't happen, not without losing staff. And I mean, we've been cutting spending in light of the increases. I mean, you know, we face inflation just like everybody else, but we can only go up 2.5%. Doesn't matter if inflation's running at 9%. So in a situation such as that, inflation goes up 9%, we go up 2.5%. So we've lost basically 7% of purchasing power. It's a 7% cut again. So we've cut through the fat, we've cut through the muscle, and you know, there's only bone left right now. And then you get more instances where the Commonwealth is not living up to its responsibility regarding the pilot. So she says they've been working on it for 10 years. Well, here it is 10 years later and nothing's been done. So I find that to be problematic. And
I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm also not saying I'm for it at the time. You know, I got to do a little more.
well, you know, if we go to the, and it would have to go to a ballot as well as town meeting, but if you're not going to support it, I don't think that there's any reason to even attempt it, because people are going to be looking for the select board for support and or direction.
And again, I mean, Dan didn't say he was against it. He was trying to see another way. So if it goes that way and Bob is in agreement,
Yeah.
then you have the select board. You know, I would certainly stand by and say, you know, that I agree that I stood up before everybody and said I wouldn't support another one.
Yeah.
So I really feel like I can't get up there. I'll talk it up because I believe this needs to happen. I just put myself, I didn't think it was going to happen. Thought we'd come out of it and we'd be
Exactly
okay.
numbers, Carl,
For
for if we were to borrow the money, what it would cost?
314,000.
314,000, so
Yeah, I'm just.
Do, you know?
it depends on if we chose a 3-year or a 5-year.
So if we did a 3-year no, that's gonna trigger, I'm trying to understand, sorry.
Yeah, so
That's
you're
cause
probably gonna
a
run it.
override, what you're saying?
Any debt exclusion's gonna do it that, every debt exclusion,
So what's the, just by borrowing the money before, we don't have that payment in the budget like we've done in the past, is what I'm asking you.
no.
What's that other, what do we call that? It's two different things, debt exclusion and the
Or
override.
override,
Yeah.
yeah. How you look at it is an override is a permanent Proposition 2.5 measure, and a debt exclusion is just the ability to borrow the money outside of the Proposition 2.5 calculation. And so when you do that, the payments for that, including interest, are excluded from your Proposition 2.5 calculation. And once the debt is paid off, and we did pay off the $1 million, once it is paid off, and I think that people have seen that their tax rate has dropped rather significantly as a result, it goes away. And But, you know, here we are, our growth is so minuscule compared with other communities, compared with anyone, to be quite honest with you. I think our growth was $6,000 last year. And that's not enough to pay attention, let alone meet the needs of the community. And so it becomes, I think, somewhat problematic that financially, you know, the town is at some point going to have to make a decision long-term how we're going to finance the operations of the community.
Speaking of that, you have $142,000 for the truck.
Yeah.
You have $5,000 for the software
Mm-hmm. And the roof would be 167.
for the school.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking that we did the 500 split between the town and the school last time,
Well,
so,
this would basically be the
Okay.
same.
okay.
So, I mean, there would be, you know, there would be a portion for the town's needs, a truck and the software, which are both capital items, and then the roof, in tandem with the MSBA repair.
Mhm.
So that's where it all comes from. And, you know, we're not asking for $1 million like we did last time. I mean, you know, we are, one good thing is we're not in debt. We don't have much
Absolutely.
in the way of debt whatsoever, which is a good place to be, because if we were in these straits and we're in debt, we would really have some problems. So it is what it is.
Is it gonna be a 3-year, or is it gonna be a 5-year?
It can be a 5. I mean, you know, the thing is, I'm always leery about going out too far, especially with 300,000. It's enough to change the dynamics of the budget, but it's not the we're all and end all. I mean, you know,
I would like to see the numbers on it, like how much it's gonna affect, you know,
the
the tax rate, and 3-year versus 5-year, because if we did, it'd almost be nice just kind of wrap it up in 3, just like on,
I'd rather
Yeah.
do sooner rather than later. Like I said, I certainly don't want to hamstring the future administrations, you know, to have some future boards and or administrator come into the town and be saddled with a whole pile of debt and, you know, not much growth and a very limited tax base.
in the interest rate too. I'd be interested to know like what the, you know, interest rate would be between the 3 and the 5-year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we're going to get a 2 or 3% interest rate anymore, but those were aberrations.
No, I don't know if it's going to be 5% or if it's a 15%.
I would suspect, at least if it were to happen this
Yeah.
year, we would probably be looking at 6.5.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, when the time comes to really make a decision on this, I'd like to have actually the hard
Yeah.
numbers on that. Lump, do you have a,
Yeah,
or Kyle?
I wanna ask another quick question. The budget for the FY 25, right now, we're doing that with anticipated the free cash being certified, or is that not done? We might still have that money to be
We're
going back.
99.999%, and I'm expecting this week or next week that,
So the budget,
and then it's still got to go to DOR.
I'm just trying, that's not done, so we can't use any of that money yet.
Not yet, but hopefully by town meeting or that.
By town meeting, will we be able to use
I'm
any of that money?
anticipating
We don't have to
it,
do
but
it.
I've said this before. But I think that things are significant. I mean, they're ready to close 23.
Because aren't we supposed to put so much back into stabilization?
Well,
Yes.
So,
it is.
will we have that there to be able to use that, and not do this?
We haven't, we're not sure what
The number is.
the amount is yet. We have not gotten that yet. I mean, it's 3 years worth, so,
I know, it's just,
yeah, I know what you mean.
same thing, you guys are frustrated, and
No.
we run a department that's getting frustrated, 'cause I'm asking, and you guys can't tell me, because you don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
And I do know definitely need to keep some in that for an emergency situation. You know, if we gotta use a little bit of it, but you know what I'm saying, like, we definitely can't use,
no,
Everything.
you know, everything.
how much did they pull out of it last year? Do you
It
know?
was around 230, 240, was it?
That was our
Ballpark?
stabilization, yeah.
So 230 should be going back in, correct?
Yeah.
It depends, and it's going to be the voters' decision. I mean, you can put it in and then take it out. You know, so that's the, right now I'm not building the budget on use of it.
That's kind of.
So far.
I kind of guess that's what my question was.
So
Were you
far,
planning on
but
using it or not?
But I only have the governor's cherry sheet, and I'll tell you quite honestly, the school sees an increase of 200,000, and this town sees an increase of 17,000. So it's not, if those numbers hold, it's going to be another tough budget year. There's no doubt about it. Now, hopefully, the House and the Senate in Boston will be better, but also understand that there's things going on in Boston. You know, they're going to blow through $1 billion on immigrants and housing immigrants. And the state revenue projections are not being met. So what does that mean for the municipalities? Because since Prop 2.5 was passed in 1980, the whole reason that they do the UGGA and the Chapter 70 funding is because they realized in Boston that Prop 2.5 was limiting the tax revenues of municipalities to the point where you were not going to be able to operate. And I'll tell you quite honestly, if you took state aid away from us, we'd just, you know, who's the last one to turn the lights off type of thing, because we wouldn't survive. I'll be quite honest with you. It's just the way it is. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm telling you the truth. It's a fact. Half of our budget plus is state aid. On that happy note.
Definitely, let's work on getting some of those numbers, and, you know, then we can review it, and Bob will be back also, and we can,
Job about it some more.
you know, chat about some more then.
Yeah, I'm confident if you put it to the people, you know, what type of position we're in, and we obviously need a truck, and I think you won't have an issue. I'm hoping you won't anyway. It's not like it's $1 million again, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if it's, you know, millions coming off and we're only doing a little bit, you know.
That's
so
right.
Honestly, they're used to paying that already,
That's
you
right.
know, but not as much.
Right,
And so hopefully
that's
that will-
exactly, that's how it should be presented.
We also voted to maintain our school with us doing it, not building a new school.
That's right.
So this is what it costs to maintain the school,
Yeah.
just one step of it, you know what I mean?
No, true. No, I agree with you.
And we're still getting a big chunk from the state, when it's 500, we're only gonna be doing, what, 160, 170?
So if it's $500,000 roof and we have to kick in 167, it's still a good deal.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, we're paying 30%, more or less, kind of, sort of.
It'll cost a lot more if that roof collapses and we gotta ship all our kids to another school, you know what I mean?
Nope, 100%. All right, moving on. Update on Middle Road South Grant application / Upper West Road culvert and Cross Road retaining wall.
Okay, so I did, and the grant portal, where you actually submit the grant, is not open yet, but for the Mass Works, they have what they call the expression of interest, and then they tell you where to go, pun intended, to apply for the money. Of course, I already knew where to go, but anyway. So I have already submitted the expression of interest for the Middle Road South Mass Works grant. Also, the same thing for the Upper West Road culvert, which is in tough condition and needs to be replaced. And then the retaining wall on Cross Road. So depending on how this all plays out, one concern I have is that, you know, placing, and they're all infrastructure grants, by the way. So they're all in the same category, and the Middle Road South grant would go from the four corners at Middle Road and Cross and West Cross Road to the North Adams line. So we've done our pre-engineering on that, and I'm pretty comfortable with that, and we should have Middle Road North closed up by May this year. And so then we have fewer culverts. although some of them are a little tricky, on the south side of this, and so hopefully we'll be able to bring that in at $1 million or less. That being said, the Upper West Road culvert, we've got steel plates in the road, patching holes, and it's perched pretty good, and I did apply for this grant through the DER, Department of Ecological Restoration. I believe it was the year before last. But the maximum amount of money that they will grant is $400,000, of which that was the cost in 2020 for this culvert. And of course, fewer contractors and supply chain issues, and you name every excuse that they can possibly come up with. I'm figuring that that culvert's going to probably be more like in the neighborhood of $550,000, of which I did have a chat with Ann Goby that they should consider raising that level. And then the Crossroad retaining wall, if we could get that funded, that would be great. If you have to pick and choose between, we could probably eke out some more time on the Crossroad wall. That's going to be probably in the neighborhood of $400,000 also. Nothing is cheap. And but my concern is that they're all infrastructure, and so you're competing against yourself. So they may look at it as, okay, which of the you might only get one successful out of these three, and do we want to be in the driver's seat as to which one we want them to fund? So I mean, I can go back. Because West Road was a casualty area, that maybe the case could be made that could be funded through the DER through various ways. And if we have to push out the Crossroad retaining wall a bit more, I'm not in love with the idea, but I think I can stomach it. Well, I may have to. That we could probably delay that one a little bit. But it is, it has been done, and once the portal's open, and I'll yak at Bob some more, we will be getting those out in as timely a manner as possible.
Okay. Kyle, do you want to add anything to add about those at all?
Yeah. Middle Road South, we want, my estimate was 1.3 again on that. There is a culvert that will be a $200,000 culvert by the pump house due to the wetlands, but if we have to take that out, we can go from there. We do have the drainage being dealt with between Fieldwood Drive, right from the Toomey and Sherman residence. There's some drainage issues going on that is taken care of in that grant. There's not much drainage from Hewitt's to North Adams line.
Yeah.
It is not a cold in place process, which we've had great luck with here. Right now we have.
Yep. Durable.
Hopefully we'll get it. We're going here. The culvert I told you about, we're running into issues with, because it has to be enlarged again, but our sewer line's right there. And I'm not going to go playing with our sewer lines, you know what I mean? So we don't know what we're gonna be able to do on that one. Crossroad retaining wall, I started patching that last year. It's how I couldn't finish due to temperatures with the concrete. I will be going back onto that in between stuff this year. And also the lower one near Holly and Moore, that needs to get all repointed. I'm gonna juggle that around between different projects this year. So, yeah, there are high priorities on this, but I've stabilized it right now, you know what I mean? We'll see how it holds up, so, and I'm gonna go back to it. So it's in the grants, we did some work, engineering for it, applied for it, but we're making through. Same thing with our West Road culvert that we designed. I feel that's gonna be, that used to be at $200,000, Carl thinks it's $4. I'm estimating that more because that's gonna have to meet the safe stream crossing standards.
Yep.
And the one that's a half a mile that Vermont just did up the road, that was 1.4 million.
Wow.
And we are gonna be required to, I feel, do the same way. I could be wrong, but
Hope you're wrong.
it's just, that's
I'm
what,
a fan.
now, that's what they're making us do.
Mm.
The plate's been on that road for, I can't tell you how long I've buried that. But it's
8-10 years.
been doing, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're making leeway, applying for stuff. We're still holding stable on these. It's not like what we just dealt with that rainstorm is what I want to tell you, you know what I
Right,
mean? It's not like, oh man, we need a decision today. It's just stuff that we know that has happened. We have more that we can see that needs attention to, but we're plucking away at it. Carl's applying for this stuff as quick as we can, and if we doing the same we always have, you know?
Yeah.
Making it work with what we have and,
Bundling through.
yeah, you know, making sure things are at least safe.
So the middle road south is the priority,
That would be my take.
if you were only gonna get one because of the
That would
infrastructure.
be my preference.
That'd be my choice too, I think.
I'm with it.
You know, and how you look at it, you know, that's the spine of the town road, because obviously we don't take care of Route 8. And West Cross Road is really held up incredibly well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been 9 years since
yeah.
we did that crossing.
And there's not even a pothole,
Couple cracks started, but
but 9 years. And that's why we like Colden Place, because, and what Colden Place does is it's almost recycles it too. It grinds it up, processes it, adds Portland cement and some fog seal and whatever, and spits it out of the back of the thing. So it's the same pavement, and it's more durable, and I think that's probably the Portland cement. Now, we did Horrigan Road, what, in 2018?
Yeah.
2 years after that, and we've already got issues with that.
That was mill and fill, right?
That's mill and fill, and that's the cheap way to lay down a lot of pavement because it looks good, but you know, is it gonna be durable? Because we can't come back. It's gonna take us all this time to get the other roads done.
it buys us some time.
Yeah.
So I did on School and Gleason and Henderson.
Mhm.
The roads weren't really that bad. I just overlaid them roads with, I think I had 60 grand at the time, 70 grand. Overlaid them and bought us some time.
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep a okay road in an okay condition so it doesn't go from an okay to an awful. You gotta
Mhm.
spend a little bit of money just to keep it at that. And you know what I mean?
And
Someday,
Before
before
we
we
get there.
even pave whatever street, we'll be going back to Crossroad and just doing a fog seal over it. We're gonna have to spend 50 grand to keep that road in that shape, or it's gonna end up like Middle Road before you know it. And then it's gonna cost you $1 million. So to spend 50 grand in 10 years, it's an
That's not
investment, you know
bad.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people don't see that, they're like, why are you paving this road when it's in good shape? Well, we're trying to keep it in that good
Right.
shape. That's the whole point of crack sealing and fog sealing. Costs money, but
No, it makes sense. All right, next up.
all kinds of good news.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Discuss public meeting hearing regarding cable TV license renewal for 0311.
So I met with the mayor and our attorney, Bill Solomon, for the cable contract, which is up, and it's a 10-year contract for Spectrum, Charter, whatever their name is this week. And so what they were suggesting is to have public input for the wonderful uninterrupted services that we routinely get from Spectrum. And to share their concerns and their frustrations and their ideas on what they would like to see. Now, understanding that the cable company does have literally a monopoly, there's a couple of items that we've at least identified that we would like to address. So the town of Clarksburg, as well as all of the other cable franchise members, receive 1% of the gross sales of the cable sales, which are decreasing, for use on technology. So that's how we pay for the rental of our copier. But that's a decreasing dollar value, because people are now doing more streaming and things via internet, and so we would obviously like to extend that 1% to internet service, which also they basically have a monopoly here in town. There are certain things that we can and cannot do because they are regulated by the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, much like the cell tower at the former golf course, where we put up a valiant fight, but ultimately the federal government prevailed. And so what they say is what it's going to be. But at the same time, that doesn't negate the ability to negotiate. One item I did notice, because I do get cable and internet from Spectrum, you get routine slowdowns in your internet, and out of the 500 channels that you get, maybe 100 of them are original because they've got multiple iterations of the same channel. Or you subscribe to National Geographic and they spend their time talking about drug dealing in South America. I don't know what that has to do with National Geographic, but it really should go away.
So I'm new to this, and so we negotiate the contract with them?
Yeah, in tandem with North Adams and Adams. I'm not sure if Cheshire is involved, and Williamstown does their own, but they're basically the same thing. I think Waynesboro might be either with us or Pittsfield, but yeah. And so we are replacing the 2014 contract. Another item I did indicate that it should be revisited in that contract is that if you have cable, because those of you who won't know what I'm talking about, but you can push a button select and upgrade your service right on your TV to add a cable channel. But you don't have the ability to minus one. And so you should be able to manage your account like right from your TV screen. But they only allow you to add and not subtract. Because I would get rid of that National Geographic in a split second. Bunch of gibberish that is. So anyway, cut to the chase. So they suggested that we have a public hearing and/or meeting to solicit both the media as well as interest and observations about the performance of the cable company, and take that to the negotiating table and see if that pays any dividends. And so that's basically it in a nutshell, my friends, is that we obviously represent the folks here in town. We want to be as responsive as we can to their wants, needs, and desires, and but also be fiscally responsible, and also understanding that we have a limited voice in the grand scheme of things. So I guess where I'm going with this is that would that be something that you would support, would you attend, and is it okay to set up?
Well, I think so this is for the contract renews on March 11th?
No, I believe the March 11th would be when we would have it. No, it expires in September, I do believe. So
So you're looking to do the public hearing on March 11th?
yes.
Where would the public hearing be? Is it in North Adams?
I would think that we probably would, let's go to the senior center, or the community center where we have really lousy internet. supplied by Spectrum.
So we're not gonna be doing this with North Adams.
No, I think that they had indicated that they could do theirs like at 10 in the morning and then do ours at 12 or 1
I
or
see.
something to that effect.
And someone from Spectrum comes to the
I don't know.
Is it?
That I'm not clear on. I didn't know it was supposed to snow today. Yay.
Well, someone would have to come. Who are we gonna complain to?
Carl.
Why stop now? I think that they would get good wind, and if nothing else, I'm sure that the results and/or effect of that would be conveyed to the powers that be with Spectrum.
So there'll be a March 11th, so Monday.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah,
probably
actually-
not a great day.
I was gonna say, is anyone actually gonna show up to this at noontime on a Monday? You know,
Yeah.
Is this gonna be like the plot of land we just sold? I mean, is this a formality, or are they gonna tell us what we're gonna get and we're gonna?
I think we have
'Cause we
better
don't have
shot
anybody
at
else.
Spectrum than we are going to with the state.
I mean, there isn't anybody else to deal with.
Well, we bounced around the ideas, do we nationalize it and take it on, which some communities have, but that's a big lift, and you know what, our pockets are not that deep.
Right.
and I mean, we're not negotiating just for Clarksburg. I mean, it's a lump negotiation anyway.
It will be
So,
consistent, so all of the participating communities will go forward with one proposal.
yeah.
So I guess that this is how do we feed our needs, wants, and wishes into that proposal, and this is the avenue that was described to me.
Okay, what do you need from us, Carl? Just
Permission to go forward, and then we'll work on it from our end.
all right.
I mean,
No, I don't know. We're gonna get at 12 o'clock on a Monday afternoon either, but we can.
Well, you know, well, let's plan on the 11th, but let's not put that in stone yet, because obviously, the availability of the community center is gonna also have to play into this. So if it happens on a Tuesday, so be it, but if you're comfortable with that, then, we can plan accordingly.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I'm fine moving forward with it. Do you need a?
Need a motion?
Might
Randy?
as well for motion to approve the pursuit of it.
I'll make a motion to move forward with a public meeting hearing regarding cable TV license on a date and time to be determined.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank
I
you.
don't wanna interrupt, just to let you know, we're not airing anymore, the tape ended after
Yeah.
an hour and a half,
Okay.
so you know.
So we said we're long-winded.
Holy cow. No, Carl's.
No, who said that?
All right. Update on accountant search.
Oh, geez, there's more?
Yes, there's no.
Yeah.
Last one.
So we went on Indeed. They sent us a whole lot of unqualified folks. None of them were qualified. And it said right in there that municipal accounting was required. Not one of them had it. So I have gone on to Massachusetts Municipal Association. I did place an ad, that's $100. As a result of that, I thought I had an application this morning. It was referencing the municipal accountant position. But it was a gentleman from the State House News trying to solicit me to put an ad in his publication. And of course saying how wonderful they are in Boston. Well, I don't know if he knows where Clarksburg is, but I find that to be a bit of a commute until we get statewide rail east-west. And that's not happening soon. So I did want to run by you a potential. So I'm working on soliciting referrals from existing accountants, financial staff of other municipalities in both Franklin and Berkshire County. I don't want to be seen as trying to steal another community's staff. But I also was wondering, would you folks be open to a finder's fee of, say, $100? I can pay that out of my expense account, which is, I'm probably gonna not spend a whole lot of that. For any successful hire, we would have to hire the individual, and they would have had to been referred to us by one of the people that I intend to contact. Because I think that it's really important that we get that position filled, and I think that I'm comfortable with the salary at this point and the hours. It's just finding a qualified individual and, you know, understanding that, you know, we're not in the center of the state. We're in tucked away in the corner. Is that something that you guys would?
Yeah, it's gonna help, and, you know, obviously we don't have to pay it out if we get a successful hire. That should
Exactly.
be a successful candidate if we're
Yeah.
gonna hire him. So I'm fine with that.
So, I obviously nobody has municipal accounting in their resume. It's
Some of them
nothing,
had no accounting at all.
right. You didn't feel there was anything that, somebody could learn this, and we don't have time to
Not
teach?
that I saw in the candidates that we got. And here's the thing, you know, so MMA is $100 for a month. It's online, and it goes in their printed publication, The Beacon. So that's, you can stomach that. Now, we did 2 weeks with Indeed, and it was over $500. 2 weeks. And we got a whole lot of nothing. And so I'm thinking that the finder's fee or referral fee or whatever you want to call it is certainly, it's a contingency. So it's basically saying that if you successfully send me a candidate, you know, we'll give you a $100 referral type of thing. That's fine, and it's affordable. My concern is you know, we don't have bottomless pockets, and I don't want to be. Insanity is repeating the same task over and over again, expecting a different result. And I'm just a little bit leery, well, I'm a lot of it leery about going back to Indeed. And, you know, as soon as I placed the ad, immediately got like 3 or 4 resumes of unqualified people. Well, that didn't really sit really well. I mean, they're sitting on people, and they're just trying to fill my email box with traffic, is how I'm looking at it. And they're not really taking the time to understand what our requirements are. Because municipal accounting is significantly different from for-profit accounting in the such that it's fund accounting and not for-profit accounting. And I think that that's lost on a lot of people. And so I am trying very hard to get a replacement. And we haven't been successful yet. So I'm willing to try other things. I've got it on the Massachusetts Municipal Accountants and Auditors Association. That was a freebie, which is a good thing, because I haven't gotten any responses. But, you know, as many tries that I can make, I certainly will try.
Carol, have you tried one through LinkedIn?
I'm not on LinkedIn.
You're not on LinkedIn.
The town's not on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't know.
You can refer somebody.
There you go.
I just know our church was looking for a staff, going through all the normal places, and, you know, we went through several. And then the pastor said, oh, he just went on his LinkedIn page, and actually, the guy's coming tomorrow to start work. It just the way it worked out. So that's why I thought, oh, LinkedIn worked out for us.
That, I will look at it. I'm not making any promises. I don't have a personal account. I've shut down my FaceTube account. I don't want the noise.
Yeah.
And the vitriol and the mis and disinformation.
Why, do you get that with LinkedIn?
I don't know. I ain't gonna give them a chance to find out.
Well, I mean,
From my own
what's
personal.
it cost to put it out there?
Does it? I don't think so.
No.
I will talk with a more tech savvy person than
I think
myself.
it was something like Facebook, you just go on and join.
Oh, I've certainly heard of it. I didn't know what the,
And
And we did post the account's position was shared on Facebook also. So we did throw it out there just for anyone browsing and,
Put it out again, and we can all share it.
yeah, no, definitely will. All right, next up, public comment. Any questions or?
we should have served lunch.
All right, I'll close the February 29th Select Board meeting at 12:40 PM.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.